Hello, everyone. This is Raise Your Voice as part of the Fans First Sports Network. I'm your host, Brett Rutherford, joined as always by my good friend and co-host, Darby Robinson. We are live on youtube.com/at Raise Your Voice and also available wherever you get your podcasts. If you would like to be a Raise Your Voice Patreon member, just head on over to patreon.com/Raise Your Voice. It is not necessary, but for as little as $1 a month, you can say thank you if you really love what we do here on the Raise Your Voice podcast. It's been a couple weeks. We've taken a couple weeks off, but now we're pretty much in the summer now. We're a couple weeks away from Memorial Day. And
did we take that time? We should have said that we took that time off as a protest to until the Rays win a home game. And we thought it would just be a couple bits, but it turned out 2 weeks.
That's what it felt like. And we, when things aren't going well, we're not dodging recording when Rays have losing series. Sometimes I enjoy recording when things aren't going well as opposed to when they are. But the Rays, I mean, they're kind of in. It feels like a holding pattern right now. It feels like they're not playing winning baseball overall. They did get a series victory over Milwaukee. We're going live pretty much right as that game. Game 3 went final on Sunday. That was a 4-2 loss, but it felt like a game that they had plenty of chances to win. Had some, I think, some batted ball luck and just some things that didn't go their way. It wasn't the worst performance of the season, but ultimately not doing enough till, not where they need to be, right? Like things need to get better. With that being said, it's May 11th. There's a lot of baseball left to be played. A lot of the opinions that we've held through April and through, the first half of May are going to wildly change as the season goes on, and things we thought were true will prove to not be, and vice versa. So, Darby, I mean, I think right now, as we get closer to Memorial Day, it's a good opportunity to see what are the Rays missing? Like, what is this club missing? And it could be stuff internal. Obviously, we're going to get into the summer where we talk about external changes. But what are your feelings right now towards the team and where they're at?
It's been very confusing. I'm not going to say, actually, I'm going to change that from little to, it's been quite confusing as a team, because I think just when you start to be ready to, and I've seen a lot of, chatter online and people talking like, this is just a bad team. Like, this was a bad team last year. This is a bad team this year. And I look at that and I would, not to say like they've been a good team. They've been playing not great baseball, but I think the way they've lost games and some of the games that they've won and the way they played in the middle of that has made it more confounding and frustrating than it has been like deflating to me, at least. I'm not sure if that's your similar feeling, but like I've seen a lot of people kind of just like chalk it up to like, well, just, they're just not good enough. They're just a mediocre team. This was always a 500 club, blah, 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 blah. Like, all this stuff where you're like, well, obviously it was like that. All the projections, they were wrong. And like, what do we know on Raise Your Voice? Like thinking this was, buying the over again. The thing is, like, bad teams do lose like 7 in a row at home, right? That's a thing that bad teams do. Bad teams do find ways to lose games. Like they don't hit with runners in scoring position. They when they do, their starter blows it up. When their starter goes well, their bullpen blows it up late. Like those are things that bad teams do. Like I get that. Bad teams also don't immediately turn around and then go take like 2 out of 3 in the Bronx against the best team in the AL. Like they don't go to San Diego, like one of the hottest teams in baseball, and sweep them. They don't take out, like these are things where it's like, okay, yeah, if this was a really bad team, I would look at them and I would see consistent patterns of bad. And I would also be like, okay, if this was a team, and the missing question is another, it's a good one, because I would love to be like, you know what? It's just that bullpen. You need another guy to like bridge it to Fairbanks, right? Like Uceda had a awful blown game, blew a game against the Phillies. That was a win, easy win. Offense did enough, pitching did enough. Uceda gives up 4 runs. That Pete blows, the 1-run lead in the 9th, but against the Phillies, that's 1 run is a very difficult saved a hold anyway. But that's not it, right? Because the bullpen's been also nails other games. And so it's not just the bullpen. It's not just. I think offense is going to be the big question. I think that's what we're going to probably talk about a lot today. Is like how to improve this offense, because it does need to improve, obviously. But overall, it's not just one thing. Like it would be great if it was. It would be great if it was like somebody like Zach Littell, right? That we've talked a lot about, like, and be like, we just need to bring Joe Boyle up to replace Zach Littell. Littell's been nails the last couple of starts. It's been Shane Baz, who was by far the best starter on the team for the first 4 starts. His last like 3 starts have been atrocious. So it's one of those things. It's not one thing. It's like, it's just certain things that have been really confounding because they have not seemed to get into a rhythm. And so it's been hard to understand, like, what is this team really? Like, is this a 500 club? Or is this a club that has had some really bad luck? There's been some injuries, but you can't even chalk it up all of that. So it's been more confounding than I have been like completely dispirited. I'm not giving up on this season yet or this team. It's just been very confusing.
Well, the weird stuff has happened for the most part at home. And we had a lot of discussions going into the season about what George Steinbrenner Field could do for this Rays offense, and having some of your guys being able to tap into their power a little bit more, namely Brandon Lowe, right? I think both you and I had high expectations for Brandon Lowe. And I don't feel like he is completely floundering at the plate. He's not having a good season. But we've seen him go through stretches like this before, and then we've seen him bounce back from that. But it feels like visiting teams have had very little trouble coming to Steinbrenner Field and raking. And the Rays, for whatever reason, I don't feel like they're not, because we've seen them do it on the road. It's not because they can't hit. It just feels like Junior Caminero hit one today that I thought was going to be a mammoth 3-run home run. And it just kind of died on the warning track. Like, it's multiple instances that I feel like over the course of a season in 81 games at that field, that I'm hoping like we start to see that offensive output from the Rays at home that we were expecting. And that goes both ways. The pitchers have to figure out how to manage that. And we knew that was going to be, I think, one of the biggest challenges. You go from a true pitching lab, which is Tropicana Field, to the great unknown at Steinbrenner. But the offense, I think it's lacking a little quality right now or a little length maybe due to the injuries. But that's part of the season. Now the Rays have more than usual right now on the injured list, and none of their I guess Josh Lowe would be their best hitter most likely on the IL, but even he has had some struggles as of late. Once you get guys like Kim and Lowe and even DeLuca, who I'm not a fan of offensively, but just kind of lengthens the lineup a little bit more, takes at bats away from the Cameron Meisners of the world, the Travis Jankowskis, although both of those guys have, been deputized and have come out and produced, and both have big walk-offs and have played big roles. And I don't want to take that away from them. So I'm not ready to give up on this offense. I'm not really ready to call it a bad offense. I think Jonathan Aranda, he's for real. I think that's been proven even over, probably a little bit less than 150 plate appearances on the season. He has been just incredibly productive and consistent. Junior Caminero, I think we see what's there. I think you have to remind yourselves, and I do as well, that he is 21 years old, and saying that he was going to hit 35 home runs this year, yeah, maybe that was a bit of a stretch. That was probably the best possible outcome for a 21-year-old in the major leagues. But he does lead the team, right? He has 7. He has shown the power. I think he has improved at his plate discipline. There's days where it looks worse than others. But the core is still there. You do need more production from Yandy and Brandon Lowe and from Josh Lowe when he comes back. And I know we're going to talk about that shortly. But the framework of a good offense is there. In production wise, I think overall, they've been not bad.
They've been middle of the pack, and it's been kind of like a weird mix in the middle of the pack because it's been like up and down. That part of that is like, again, today is another example, like a ton of runners in scoring position, not a lot of hits. The game before that, which they did win on the Jankowski walk-off, 0 for 10 with runners in scoring position. So like the thing is, like, bad offenses don't get 10 runners, don't get 10 chances with runners in scoring position. So you are scoring 0 runs, and it's 1 for 3 or 0 for 3 with runners in scoring position, 1 left on base. You need people on base to leave them on base. And so the Rays are doing that part, which is good. Again, I've always said, like, you want the left on base number to be low, but as long as that run score is high. If you're scoring a bagel, if you're got 0 or you got 1 and there's a left on base of like 0, that's bad. That you didn't have anybody on. You had no chance. So there is that like 1 hit away, right? That 1 in the gap. But you mentioned like the hitters, right? This is the thing that's the part that I struggle with when people are like, when people come in and say like, this is a bad team and we knew it was going to be a bad team. This is the failures of this team are not the people that anybody said was the bad choices. Like, these are the failures have been like, so on the season with at least 10 plate appearances to try to cut out some of the noise, the WRC plus numbers, the weighted runs created plus, right at the top, you have Johnny DeLuca at 195, a lot, with a very healthy 526 BABIP. Every bloop was falling for him. So get back soon. But then you have Jonathan Aranda at 180 still, so huge. Jake Mangum, Cameron Meisner, 112. Jankowski is up to, he's been at 109. Caballero at 107. Here's the problem. Besides Aranda, I've now listed all the fringe guys and all guys batting in the bottom. I really would like to get to somebody that's batting in the heart of the order, right? Okay, I finally got to one. Junior Caminero, 104. Fine. That's what you're hoping to get Jose Caballero to.
Right.
Not Junior Caminero. Yandy Diaz, 104. Christopher Morel, 100. Then you got Taylor Walls at 74, who's been playing quite well as of late.
Taylor Walls has played really well. He has been probably the best player on the field this week for the Rays.
Absolutely. And we have to say that because we have been very mean to Taylor Walls, but he's doing the things also that we have been begging him to do for so long. He had the go-ahead RBI walk where he was just spitting on pitches, spoiling pitches, drawing the walk, back flipping the walk, the RBI. That is what I want to see Taylor. I want him to be Jose Caballero. I want him to be an absolute pest to opposing pitchers, not try to tee off on a 400-foot bomb that it's going to go 270 and be a easy can of corn pop-up. I want you to be an absolute, he has a great view of the zone, spoil pitches, choke up, be Jose Caballero, lean in, be just an absolute nuisance, cause the opposing pitcher to eventually just like hit you out of just psychic frustration. That's what, and he's been doing that.
He has. And if he plays like that, I'll take him as my everyday shortstop all day long.
Because the defense is there and he's batting 8th. He's batting 9th, right? Yeah. You're just trying to get something out of that. But so this is the problem, right? So Brandon
Lau, he looked like early on in his career, like that
exactly
that first season, 2021, when he got called up after Adames was traded, and he was playing shortstop pretty much every day. This is what he looked like, and this is kind of the hope was. I mean, you still had Wander coming up behind him at that point, but at that point there was conversation of like, do you move Wander Franco to third or to second, and let Taylor Walls be your shortstop because of what he can provide? And then that disappeared for a few seasons, and now for a week and a half, maybe.
It's about 2 weeks. It's about 2 weeks.
It's been back. It's been back, and so
this is the encouragement. This is the positive encouragement, Taylor. We love you when you're doing.
But when he sees Ha-Seong Kim on the backfield, like working out, man, the clock is ticking.
The clock is ticking. Well, so this is the thing, right? Okay, you're looking at this team. You have Curtis Mead. And we'll put a pin in this. He's at 30 WRC plus. Terrible. It's truly a nightmarishly bad season. we're going to talk about left-handed pitching in a little bit, but
Yeah.
that is the biggest key. That is what's missing, is that Curtis Mead is playing against left-handed pitching, and he is not hitting at all. He is pinch hitting. He's not hitting. He is starting. He's not hitting. He's got no power, still 0 home runs. Just really, really bad. But yeah, Brandon Lau, 60, really rough. Yandy Diaz, 104. Junior Caminero, 104. And this is where I'm really, and this should like talk about left-handed pitching, because this has been one of the biggest flaws of the team. Besides playing at home, it's been also against left-handed pitching. This is the leaders against left-handed pitching, minimum 10 plate appearances. You have Jose Caballero at 173 WRC plus. You have Jake Mangum at 119. You have Danny Jansen, 105. And that is the end of the people above 100 in weighted runs created plus. So everybody else is batting below that. Jonathan Aranda, 96. That just goes to show how good of a season he's doing, because he is a lefty. He's faced some tough lefties. He has done a really good job at being good enough against left-handed pitching. Yandy Diaz, 80. That is a good 60 points low than what it should be against right-handed pitching. And that's been missing. Junior Caminero, 57. That is atrocious. That is 43% below average. That is not good enough against left-handed pitching. Like, this is a right-handed bat, a power bat that should be feasting on southpaws. I mean, Junior Caminero is at 57. Cameron Meisner, who has extreme splits in the minors, is at 44. That's a lefty-lefty matchup. Junior Caminero is slightly better than a extreme splits left-handed batter against lefties. Chandler Simpson also at 44. Like, that is not who it is. I mean, and Brandon Lau is at the bottom at 6, which, again, for Lau, he is usually held as well, his own against lefties better. He is not this year. We mentioned, like, these are the things, right? Yandy Diaz, Junior Caminero, and Brandon Lau. These are the 3 players. When people were mentioning, like, okay, these are good players, they kept Lau, they kept Yandy. They did not trade those guys. Those guys have all not done nearly enough to help this team win. And those are all guys that are batting in the top 4 of the lineup. So when you have 3 out of the 4 of that top of the lineup failing this much, it's really hard to succeed. But you also can't imagine that Yandy Diaz is going to continue to be a middling hitter. Junior Caminero is very young. There's a lot of outcomes, but the stuff is too good to not be a little bit better. And Brandon Lau is rocking a 450 expected slugging percentage. His actual is around 300. So he's hitting it extremely hard, but it's just, everything is finding gloves right now. So Brandon Lau is hitting the ball hard, not finding territory. Junior Caminero and Yandy Diaz, they're doing okay, but they need to be doing great. That is, to me, is what's really missing on this team. There's some things that they need that's not here right now, but the biggest thing that's missing are guys that are healthy, that are here, that are not producing.
Yeah, Yandy's profile, he hasn't changed much as a hitter this year.
No,
like the bat speed's actually gone up for Yandy. So if you're looking at things of, okay, is age finally hitting him? Maybe in a couple areas, but not in the ways you'd expect. And I don't think there's any reason to believe that he's not going to return to at least 2024 form, which at the end of the season was a 120 WRC plus. And I think you take that right now from Yandy for the rest of the season if you can. The ball's just, you got 250 BABIP, which is the lowest BABIP of his career by over 30 points. I think 288 he did that 2 other seasons. So I'm not worried about him. I'm not that worried about Brandon Lau. It's just a matter of getting these guys to click. And you think about it, like we talk about this, like, okay, like let's say the next 2 weeks they win 9 games or they go 9-3 over 12 game stretch, and boom, all of a sudden you're back over 500. You're a game out of first place. Like, at this point in the season, that's doable and that can change the course of your season. So
the Royals have gone 16 out of 18. Do that, and you're winning the division. That's the other. That is the thing to look at right now. Where the other big thing that I'm looking at. So when I'm seeing this team, they are 4 games out of first right now, and we all can admit that it's been very annoying baseball. They have just lost a ton of games, a ton of winnable games, and it's just been kind of frustrating. They're still 4 out. The entire AL East has been kind of a mess. The Yankee, like when Max Fried pitches, the Yankees are unbeatable. When anybody else pitches, flip a coin and you might beat the Yankees. That's how that's gone. So they have not run away with it. Boston has not played many teams above 500. They played the least of anybody in the AL East, and they've been a little bit better than 500, but they are not a complete juggernaut. The Orioles are a complete dumpster fire right now, which I think that offense is going to get better, but that pitching was a disaster coming in. A lot of people mentioned it was a disaster. It's been a disaster. So that's been like kind of that check. And the Blue Jays are kind of middling as well. They've been kind of right where the Rays are. So I look at this and I'm like, okay, this is not a team that's like running away from it. The Astros are like 19-19, I think. The Athletics are ahead of them. They've been pretty decent and they've actually played some pretty good ball. Like the AL has got a lot of teams. It's a little bit of a jumble. The Rays are not like right in the wild card spot today as the season ended today, but there's still a lot of games left. And I still like in 2 weeks, we will know a lot more about who is real and who is not, because so far a lot of things could change. We're looking at this. The Rays lost today 2-4. They've lost a bunch of games where they've lost by like 2 or fewer runs. 1-3 against Kansas City, 6-7 against Philly. They had a couple of 1-run losses, shutouts against Boston and New York. You have like 1 or 2 of those games flipped and you're like a 500 club right now. That's how much we really are talking about, like, oh, they're 4 games under 500. They're 5 games under 500. Flip the results of like 2 or 3 winnable games where the bullpen blows it, or the offense just like Brandon Lau comes out with 2 runners on, or Yandy Diaz comes up with the bases loaded and nobody out and they can't like score. These things, you flip like just 2 of these results and suddenly you are looking at a totally different set. You're looking at where the Boston Red Sox are right now. And the Red Sox, besides Rafael Devers, are feeling pretty good. Actually, Rafael Devers playing great. Just besides Rafael Devers' attitude of not really wanting to be kind of jerked around, they're doing really
jerked
good.
around from third to DH and
to
DH to first. Like, come on. When he said he had to change positions going into the season. No, you went from playing a position to not. And I will say,
he has not changed the position yet. He has not changed the position. Yeah, they did. He did say, like, I have to keep learning positions. And it's like, what are you learning with DH? I mean, I there know, is something to it. There is something to it. Yeah.
And guys that have done it will tell you, like, there is. So I don't want to like downplay that. But I am.
But you get to save money on a glove. You don't even have to bring a glove to the stadium.
Exactly.
Just more batting time. So okay, here's my thing, and I'm gonna just say this right now, and I'm curious to hear your take, Brett. Right now, today, just vibe check. Do you think this is a team? This is a contending Rays team.
Is that like just contending for the postseason?
Just contending for the postseason. We're not saying we coming into the season, we thought they were going to be a wild card contender, right? We did not say they were going to be a division contender. We said they were going to be a wild card contender. So I'm not changing the bar, but like, do you think right now this is a wild card contending capable team?
Yes. Yeah, that opinion has not changed.
I'm in the exact same way.
Could I see versions of this season that play out and they are pretty similar to last year? Yeah, 100%.
Totally.
There are things that need to get better. Guys, they need to, pitchers that need to be a little bit more consistent. I think that's something you're seeing league wide because it's May 11th. You talked about some of the other teams, and you can look at other pitchers and other pitching staffs that are just not consistent right now. And I think dealing with Steinbrenner is a big part of that for the Rays. the strength of schedule that they've played recently. I think that's a big part of it too, and that's including the sweep you had with the Padres. And again, even though you just coming off a series win at home, I'm always thinking this team is in need of a road trip. They're in need of get to a different ballpark, get out of your you're not in your comfort zone now. So a road trip, just like a nice change of scenery for you. And I feel like that's what they need again.
I think the vibes on the road also are better in terms of just you're in a real stadium. Mentally, the Rays, I think, have mentioned Steinbrenner Field a lot. They've talked about the shadows, the lights, the crowd, the dimensions, the wind going out to right field versus left field. And I think there is and we talk about this, right, where it's like, well, both teams get to play on the same dimensions, the same field, the same environment. Yeah, sure. But like for the Phillies, this is 3 games and then they're gone. Then they're never seeing this stadium again until next Grapefruit. Like, that's it. The Rays are like living in it. And they're like, every time I pull a ball, it dies on the track. So you are going up there mentally being like snake bit. Whereas the Phillies, Nick Castellanos is just like wandering in there, just hitting a bomb. That's
in front of like 10,000 Philly fans.
In front of, yes, like 7,000 Philly fans and 3,000 people, or 7,000 Philly fans, and overall, like probably like 7,000 people just all like on their phones.
Yeah.
Not paying attention. They're like spring training attitude. There's spring training vibes in this park with a spring training park. It straight up.
Which, not an excuse to like just not play well, but it is real. I think it's something that you're going to hear a lot more about from players once this season is in the rear view.
Yeah.
And hopefully they're back at Tropicana Field to open the 2026 season. I'm a little skeptical of that. But I think
I'll take Omaha at this point. I will take Omaha for the first half of next season and then move into the Trop over this again, because it's not just like the Steinbrenner Field. It's just this is offense to the fans that in the stadium, but this is a terrible like environment on television. An absolutely bland environment, and Sacramento is absolutely destroying that on television. So like, I don't know, man. It's just a weird Florida vibe that's not there. And that the Trop, if you get 11,000 in the Trop, that is a loud house.
Mm-hmm.
You're getting 10,000 in the sun. Maybe it's just baking them out.
Or in the rain, like we got this
or in
weekend.
The rain.
And
that's first rain delay.
Everyone for the first month of the season, like, wouldn't shut up about, wow, like, this is great. It's outdoors. It's beautiful. Who said that we couldn't do this in Florida? And from now and until the end of the regular season, you're going to be dealing with a lot of this.
Yeah. Rain, thunder, lightning.
Yeah. Humidity. Heat. Like, it's not going to be an enjoyable experience. I'm going to be in town, I think, for during one homestand. I think it's coming out of the All-Star break against Baltimore, which is like July 18th or something. But I'm going to go because it's my only chance to see him this year. And I am kind of curious what it's going to be like.
Hydrate.
Yeah, I'm not looking forward to having to go up against the elements for that game or games that I go to. But
under 1.5 on-field pukings this summer.
I like the
also
over.
Coaches or umpires. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
On field, not
it's
just
tough
fans,
for umpires.
not fans.
It's tough for specifically the home plate umpire with all the gear that they're wearing.
Mm-hmm.
I like the over. If you're picking Rays players, do you have an inkling as to who would be most likely?
I'm trying to think. Who's the most?
I mean,
like,
obviously, like your catchers, I think are going to be.
I don't know. I feel like I was thinking catchers, but I'm just like, I don't know. I feel like
I was thinking Christopher Morel.
Oh, interesting.
The question is, and this is a good segue.
He's in the Dominican League, right? That's the Winter League. I guess.
That's true.
It's much colder.
That's true. Maybe it needs to be like Ben Rortvedt, who's from Wisconsin.
There you go. In the armor.
the question is for both Ben Rortvedt and Christopher Morel is when are these guys going to see the field? Morel has been reduced to a short-sided platoon role in left field, and they bring him off the bench quite a bit in games where he's not starting. But this is not what I envisioned for his role on this team going into this season. You and I talked about, the Rays just kind of giving him left field and saying, it's yours now. Learn the position, get comfortable out there. And I know he's had some early season struggles, but I did not see him, especially with the injuries we've had. And I know they've brought in left-handed hitters like Meisner and Jankowski. I was not expecting to see Morel on the bench against most right-handed pitchers.
I also feel like it's been hurting him because he's career-wise, like I'm not sure how much I buy into the reverse split, but he's been a reverse split guy. And this season, he's also been a reverse split hitter against right-handers. He's got 66 plate appearances. He's hit 148 WRC plus against left-handed pitchers. He's been in there 50 plate appearances and has a 38 WRC plus. So it has been because I think like against lefties, you're not going to play Meisner when you can avoid it. You're going to try to bench. Usually you want to get like one of Brandon Lau or Jonathan Aranda, but you're not going to really want to have Jankowski or Meisner in there. So Morel gets in there, and against right-handeds, you want to get lefties in there. Meisner has to play. You have to have Lau and you have to have Aranda. So it has, and right now Chandler Simpson is playing against both hands. So yeah, you look at this and you're like, well, Morel's not playing against righties. He's only hitting against righties. Like he only can hit against righties. He's been terrible against lefties for whatever reason in his career. He has been like great against right-handed pitching. He's been terrible against left-handed pitching. Now, clearly the Rays don't believe in this. And I also don't know if I believe in it either, but you combine that with the Steinbrenner, mentality and like, does Morel believe it? Like, does Morel think I can hit righties, lefties I just can't pick up on? And is that hurting him? Like, are we setting him up to fail in a little way?
I think where I struggle with this, and after you make trades, you shouldn't use the reason you made trades or the fact that you made a trade. You shouldn't let that determine how you manage players moving forward. But I look back to the Paredes trade where you got Morel, you got Hunter Biggie, and you got Ty Johnson, who's in AA, a reliever in AA right now, looking good. Like looks like he's got big league stuff for a reliever. But Paredes, who is rounding back into form, the home run totals aren't quite there, but is rounding into form.
He's been the on base machine that he usually is. Yeah, he hasn't taken advantage of the Crawford boxes yet.
To trade Isaac Paredes for what is being played as right now, a bench outfielder and two relievers, I just struggle with that. And I have no idea how they'd make it all work with Caminero. Again, it was one of those where like, we need to make room for Caminero. They don't play a whole lot of other positions. You could have, I guess, traded Yandy, but we would have been upset about that as well. But that's where I'm at right now. Like, I'd like to see Morel continue to play, even if that means he's going to continue to struggle. I don't want to see some of these other guys out there.
Well, and I also, not even just from like, I want to recoup the trade. Like, I think you make that trade for a good reason. Like, Morel has had some really good tape. He's 25 years old, and he does a lot of things that you really want to see well. He's got a 113 max EV on the season, exit velocity. He's had a barrel rate of 19%, a hard hit rate of 46.6%. Like, he is absolutely smoking the ball. His X slugging, his expected slugging is at 462, similar to Brandon Lau. Like, he is crushing the ball that should come up. I just see him as a guy that like provides a pop. Yes, he strikes out way too much. That's always going to be his thing, but he does absolutely like tattoo the ball. And so
where they
defensively, but
where they're at right now from a roster management standpoint is you made the decision to call Chandler Simpson up, which I think with some of the injuries you were dealing with and what he's been showing, I think that's a fine decision. And I think he's been good, especially for a rookie, right? Like there's things he needs to figure out. But today he doubled to center field on a ball hit right at Jackson Churio. Like it wasn't to right center, it was to center field, and he doubled
against a very good defense. Like Churio is
Yeah.
also not like a scrub out there.
Right. So there's things that Simpson is doing that is just incredible. But I think the Rays are kind of coming down on the fact that Simpson's not going to be a great center fielder. He doesn't have a good arm. He's still learning the position. He can become, I think, an above average center fielder, purely because of his speed and athletic ability. He had the ball. I think Aaron Judge hit it. It was in New York, and it popped off his glove, and Judge got a triple, I think. But no other center fielder in baseball even gets to that ball. So I'll take Simpson making a play on it and not coming up with it. So they feel like they're having to play Simpson in left. Morel, definitely not a center fielder. So now you're playing Cameron Meisner in center. I think that the splits probably play a little bit of a role into it, but I think it's more so defensive alignment. So maybe when we get to, and I think this is segue into the next topic that we're going to talk about, as some of these outfielders come off the injured list in a backwards way, it's going to create more playing time for a Christopher Morel. For example, Josh Lowe should be the next outfielder to come off the injured list. He is on a rehab assignment in Durham. I imagine he could be up as early as Tuesday. Maybe they give him a few more games in Durham and he comes back for the weekend series. But Josh Lowe, you think would just slot right back into right field. The question is, Darby, who do you get rid of? Is it Travis Jankowski, who you would be, DFAing? Or would it be Cameron Meisner, who has definitely fallen off a bit after a crazy hot start?
Yeah, the Meisner has definitely shown some good stuff early in the season. The scary part for Meisner, and after the first little bit, was the most encouraging thing was that he had cut down on his strikeouts. He was at an 18% K rate. And you're like, okay, that is a huge, like he's had a swing change, really good, really big shift. He has really fallen off. The Ks are now up. His K rate on the season is now ballooned at 28.3%, which is pretty much right in line with the minor league numbers. So he needs a counterpunch. He needs to fix that. His expected weighted on base average is 274. His actual weighted on base average is 323. You do not want that big of a drop there. That's basically showing contact, and like quality of contact is way down. He's starting to look like, and it's one of those things where he is starting to look like a guy who was going to like make that Josh Lowe's type of move of like maybe being the kind of the next Josh Lowe. We talked about it, like five tools type of player, really good, smooth, athletic, fast, kind of has a little bit of everything. Pitchers have sort of figured it out. It is going to be up to Cameron Meisner to now make those changes to kind of get back into it. And if he can, that's a major league player. If he can't, then this was a fun trip, but that's going to be it, because pitching is very good and hitting is very hard. Right now, what I see with Meisner is I see somebody who has done a really good job basically doing what we wanted Josh Lowe to do. And so keeping the Rays with Josh Lowe going down like the second at bat of the season. And we have basically had the peak Josh Lowe of what we wanted since then in Cameron Meisner. I think there is a lot of things that Meisner can work on, and you want consistent playing of time to do that. If I'm looking at Josh Lowe coming back, you're going to give him the right field, right? He did not get Wally pipped by Cameron Meisner. It got close, but Meisner's Ks are sneaking up. I don't see Meisner necessarily getting a ton of time. Like, do you now have Meisner as a bench guy, or would you rather just send him down? Like, I probably think Meisner is a better player or he has more ceiling, obviously, than Travis Jankowski. But as a fourth, fifth outfielder, Travis Jankowski kind of knows that role. He's been in that role. He accepts that role. And that is important. Being able to not play and then contribute when you're called upon. that is hard for young players. It is really hard, and it's hard to keep your timing and keep your skills. We've seen that with Curtis Mead. His career maybe has really kind of failed because he has not been able to get consistent playing time. Might have failed even with it, but like Travis Jankowski, somebody you can like not play for a couple of days. He can start, give you a base knock, make a good play in the field, steal a base, and then be back onto the bench for a couple of days. I'm kind of leaning towards Meisner going down and keeping Jankowski.
Then who are your center fielders? Is it just Simpson out there every day?
Simpson or Lowe. Josh Lowe is, I think,
they would play Lowe,
Cameron Meisner. Yeah, I think you have Simpson in there the majority of the time, which he has played the majority of the time in center field. But I think the fact
this
that
week against the righties, the right-handed starters, Simpson was in left. They had Meisner in the lineup.
I think they know that Meisner is a better center fielder than Chandler Simpson. Like he is much more experienced. He's much more talented when it comes to knowing those routes. Simpson's faster, but Meisner's arm, and it's going to take time, right? Meisner's been playing center field his entire life. Simpson was a shortstop when he was drafted. Like he is doing admirably well for being an outfielder, but center field is one of the most challenging defensive positions. So I think when you have Meisner, I think you play him there. I think Josh Lowe is not as good as Meisner, but I don't think he is such a giant step down that you wouldn't be fine with him getting kind of that Meisner stuff. But yeah, I think you have Jankowski who could play center field. I think you have Chandler Simpson who can play center field. And I think you have Josh Lowe who could play center field in a pinch. I think you probably do that. And to your point, this is where Christopher Morel suddenly returns. Chandler Simpson in center field, Josh Lowe in right field. Christopher Morel, welcome back. You're in left field. And you're against a righty. You're against a righty.
You're not worried about getting another left-handed hitter in there, which would be Jankowski. Because
I'm kind of worried about getting Christopher Morel getting right-handed pitching. Because again, I don't know if I believe it, but like I think maybe for him, like if Christopher Morel believes it, then that's good enough. Like that is sort of like the part of baseball and as a science and a humanities. Like, yes, there's no reason why Christopher Morel should be better against right-handed pitching, all right-handed pitching than left-handed pitching, right? Pitch types, swing plane, like all these things matter way more than just handedness. It doesn't matter if mentally you're coming in being like, I got a righty, I'm going to feast on this guy. Versus a lefty, like, oh, okay, I can work on this. I can like plan it out. He's going to try to feed me a lot of off speed, which I don't really love, but he's going to try to do that. You know, I don't know that that's what's going on, but like when you have reverse splits, I feel like that's so much less science and more just like the heart and soul of baseball. Like for whatever reason, this person does not feel comfortable or as comfortable.
Would you let Jose Caballero play center field?
Not over Josh Lowe, and mostly just because of I think Caballero could actually probably be fine at it, but I would probably
it would only be against a left-handed pitcher because like Caballero played right field all 3 games against the left-handed starters this week when you faced Sanchez, Luzardo, and Quintana 3 straight games. Caballero was in right for all of those.
So here's a question for you. It's a crowded outfield, but here's a question for you: is it Jankowski versus Meisner? Or is it Jankowski versus Meisner versus Mead? First down. Could Curtis Mead be the option to go
for
down
Josh when Josh Lowe comes up?
For Josh Lowe. I know, right? Left-handed bat, outfield. What? You're doing an infield, right-handed infield? But game it out with me. Game it out with me right here. Okay. When does Curtis Mead play against left-handed pitching? Right? Mm-hmm. That's when Jose Caballero plays. You are basically saying like you're either taking out one of the lefties like Cameron Meisner, who probably doesn't play against lefties either. You have Caballero and Mead. But maybe you're starting to think like, okay, we have Josh Lowe. We have Jonathan Aranda who needs to play every day. We now have one of the Lows, Brandon or Josh, playing second base or right field. You have Meisner still for center field or Jankowski for center field. Curtis Mead is basically a short side of the platoon bat who has been very bad against everybody. Is it better to not have Jonathan Aranda in every day and then have one of Josh Lowe or Brandon Lowe in over Mead? That's your real choice. Is like, okay, we have one more at bat from Josh Lowe or Brandon Lowe, or we have Curtis Mead. It's the unlikely choice, but it is
I don't see it.
You keep your defense. I don't know. I think Johnny DeLuca is the easier choice because now you have your right-handed bat. And even though it's an outfielder, Curtis Mead has to go. But that I'm just throwing it out there. That
are you convinced that Chandler Simpson is here to stay?
I am not convinced, but I think the switch to left field suggests the Rays are not interested in sending him down as one of the first moves. It almost seems, and Ian Malinowski on the site was sort of talking about this, and it got me sort of thinking about it. His usage has been different than all the other kind of outfielders, right? He is obviously he's kind of neutral, split neutral, but his bat is not great against any hand, but it's pretty neutral. Like he doesn't have a big penalty against lefty or righty. But if you are moving him to left field, I think you are suggesting ways to get him, still keep him in the game. If you are seeing him as more of like he's like a pinch runner, a fun bench piece, a placeholder for now, I would think you would basically have him in center field or left field, but you would not be playing him every day. I think putting him into left field, getting him reps there is a suggestion that like once Johnny DeLuca comes back, he is your starting center fielder. But Chandler Simpson has a role even when DeLuca is back, which before it was like, well, is Chandler Simpson now the starting center fielder and DeLuca is a bench bat? I think they're suggesting that Chandler Simpson might have a role on this team, even in the starting lineup, even if it's batting ninth, even after DeLuca and Josh Lowe return.
Are there any early season trade candidates out of this bunch that you think the Rays would actually move to get some piece that's worth something valuable in return?
I think the outfield has a lot of options that you could trade. Like Cameron Meisner, like with Josh Lowe, is kind of superfluous. I don't see Simpson. I don't see DeLuca. Josh Lowe, I think you need to build up the value.
What about Richie Palacios if he were to get to a healthy situation by the end of June?
I think Palacios, could be. You could do a small piece. I almost think with Palacios, when he gets back, that almost could be around the time that you make a trade of Brandon Lowe.
Yeah.
If Josh Lowe is hitting well and Jonathan Aranda is starting to become like your stud against lefties, Christopher Morel is hitting well against righties, Junior Caminero and Yandy Diaz are hitting well against every hand. Brandon Lowe is a key piece. However, that is
you can make up that production. Yeah, you can make up that production from other spots.
You suddenly now have like Palacios can be the second baseman for a game. Or, and this is the other big part of this, June, Richie Palacios come back, or June, late May, when Ha-Seong Kim is back.
In Ha-Seong Kim, they are talking about him playing not just shortstop, like might be some DH, might be some second base, just to ease him in his arm in. So.
And it's one of those things where I just don't.
So could you see a Brandon Lowe trade in June, or do you think that's a deadline deal?
I could see it in June. I could see it jumping. I think the Rays used the deadline to jump winter meetings. So why not use June to jump the deadline?
Yeah.
Trade one of the best bats that will be available at the deadline. Now, I also could see the Rays setting the price high and just being like,
wait it out.
All right. If you don't get here, maybe we get more desperate in July and you just make it work, right? You maybe then send down Chandler Simpson and you keep Palacios, and that's your like kind of platoon outfielder. You know, something could eventually, you might run out of space, but that's a problem you hope to have. But I would not be shocked to see an early season trade there, just because the space is starting to get like a little tight. If Kim can't play short early, or at least full time, he does need a place to play. With Yandy and Aranda being first base or DH all the time. And this is also kind of where the when I look back at the Paredes trade, I kind of see why they kind of made the move, because where was he playing? Is he playing first and now Aranda's second and Yandy? Like if you kept Paredes, you would need to kind of trade Lau or Yandy to kind of make it work. Like you weren't going to be able to fit it in there anyway. Because you're like, well, Aranda, we believe in as a bat. You don't want to just get rid of him before you have it. And that's clearly paid off. So I look at this as not and especially here's the other thing. And I'm one of the biggest Brandon Lau fans. I'm a big Brandon Lau defender. He is so much better player than a lot of the fan base sometimes pretends he is. The bat speed is down this year. And when bat speed drops as players get over 30, there is that's a big warning sign. It's not a death knell, and he's still clearly hitting the ball very hard. But that does scare me. And if he is losing bat speed and he's not able to catch up to those fastballs, you do maybe want to trade him before it gets too bad. And he could have a great second half. And I mean, the batted ball data is suggesting that he will, but sometimes trading a year too early is not the worst thing. What do you think, Brett? Like, is there anybody here that you're just seeing like could be an early trade, like kind of jump the market a little bit?
If it's not Brandon Lau, I think it would have to be a piece, like a fringe piece, like a Palacios,
a Mangum.
Sure. Mangum, Meisner, you could move those guys for very little. And that could be another organization that just needs the depth. Jose Caballero would be an interesting one. I don't think it's likely. I think he's too versatile. He's also your understudy for junior. In shortstop, but once you have Kim back, you have Walls and Kim. So Caballero hasn't played shortstop in over a week. He went that like week and a half, 2 week period where we talked about on the podcast. He was the starting shortstop again. And we never saw that coming because we always thought when Walls is healthy, he's the shortstop. This way, and it's made it a little wonky. Like Caballero has played with all the lefties they faced. So maybe we start to see Caballero cycle back into shortstop a little bit more. He could bring something back. I think that's a little more valuable, but that might be a piece where it's closer to the deadline. But this is assuming we get guys back healthy because there's a number of guys on the IL that we don't really have timetables on. Like we haven't heard a whole lot on Johnny DeLuca. Jake Mangum is again, he could easily just go back to Durham. So you're not really thinking he's going to push anyone out. But Palacios, that knee is worrisome. Like Richie Palacios might not be healthy this year. Like that might be one of those things that lingers and he's back again in the second half and he's going to play a very sparing role. And he has an option left. So they don't have to make a move with him. So it might be one of those things where we're solving puzzles that aren't going to need to be solved. And
it's possible.
The team, other than hopefully we get Josh Lowe back and he remains healthy. And we're only 2.5 months away from only 2.5 months away from the trade deadline.
Only 2.5. Not that we're looking ahead to the trade deadline, but yeah, I look at the playing time for people, and Christopher Morel, I think does need to play more. I think he is not playing enough. I think Meisner has been in there plenty. I mean, it's been an interesting thing. I think there is definitely a lot of like. So here's something about this start that I do kind of like need to sort of get out there that's been weird, and it comes into the playing time question too, because it's been very strange. So the Rays as a team are very bad against left-handed pitching. They are 23rd in baseball by WRC plus, at just 72. So well below average. By weighted on base average, they are 28th, only worse than Baltimore and the Angels at just 266. So really, really bad against left-handed pitching. Don't need to tell you fans that. You've watched it. Every time there's a lefty, just it's abysmal. And you look at the lineups and they look bad because suddenly you're like, who is our most fearsome hitters? Brandon Lowe, Jonathan Aranda, Cameron Meisner. No, they're not in there. And instead it's Curtis Mead, baby. And like Danny Jansen's definitely hitting better, but like when your bottom of your lineup is like Jose Caballero, Danny Jansen, Taylor Walls, Chandler Simpson, you're like, yikes, that is not great. The biggest problem though is the Rays have their third most plate appearances against left-handed pitching. So they have faced a ton of lefties, way more than most teams. They are only one plate appearance behind the Detroit Tigers for second most in all of baseball. Against right-handed pitching, the Rays weighted on base average is 17th. Their weighted runs created plus, again, like kind of right in that same range. They're actually 11th by weighted runs created plus. So like a top half offense against right-handed pitching. The problem is, and that's with the failures we've talked about with Yandy Diaz and Junior Caminero and Brandon Lowe. The problem is they have faced they're 29th. They are second to last, only behind the Padres, facing right-handed pitching. So they have played a ton of home games, which we have talked about as a mental buck for them at home. They have faced a ton of lefties, 500 plate appearances against lefties, 900 plate appearances against righties. So almost half of the time they have faced a lefty, way more than most teams in baseball, and they are terrible against left-handed pitching. You put these together with a bunch of these like one-run losses, these like close things, some bad bullpen implosions, and some bad luck again at home where fly balls end up as home runs there for you. Your fly balls are just not getting out. I look at that, and not to make excuses, right? But I look to try to understand, like, why is this team going on the road and playing really good baseball, and then they come home and they are just not playing the same level or quality of baseball, and they're finding these ways to lose. And I'm looking at that, and I'm really looking ahead, because until this Brewer series, they had gone almost a solid month straight facing teams that were at or above 500 at the time they faced them. And those are teams like the Angels, who are now well below 500, but at the time, Kieran Paris was on a Bonzian streak. Mike Trout was still healthy. And the Angels were like on a heater. They were playing amazing baseball. They have since fallen off, but the Rays caught them at the worst possible time. They have faced Texas when Texas was actually firing on all cylinders. They have faced so many teams that were hot at that time. One of the only teams they faced, the last time they had faced a team below 500, was the Atlanta Braves, who are kind of a fake below 500 team. They had started like kind of slow, but have since kind of rebounded back. So that was the only team they faced that was on kind of a slump. Since then, it's been teams that were at 500 or above. And so when you're looking at that, and you're looking at the predominance of left-handed pitching, which is a bad lineup for them because they're missing like kind of those key hitters,
Yeah.
I'm looking at that and I'm saying, like, again, not to make excuses, but to just try to understand that, like, the next couple of weeks, we might actually start to see what like this team really can do. They're facing teams that are at 500 or below. The Brewers came in at 500. The Astros are starting this month at 500. The Marlins, the Blue Jays, these are teams that are below 500. I think the Blue Jays might be like almost back to 500 or near it. So I don't know, like, will this team, if this team plays the next couple of weeks, getting to Memorial Day, playing these teams that are now not like on their heaters, but actually teams that are like, where the Rays are, which are winning some, losing some, like playing in the middle. if they start to win more of these series, if they start to go on a little run, if they start to like put together some better games, if they start to have like every mistake isn't completely capitalized because they're facing, the Yankees, the Phillies, like these teams that are like, or the Royals in the midst of a, again, 16 win out of 18 game stretch where like every single mistake, boom, they're capitalizing, scoring a couple runs. Every single thing, like every bad pitch from Yoshida is going over the wall. Like those small things, like if they can just get by with like, we survived one mistake, suddenly maybe that's turning one loss into a win. And that feeds on itself and that feeds on like that energy. So this has been a weird start to the season, but there is some weird stuff there. Facing the worst hand that you can possibly face, playing in a stadium that you are mentally blocked in, and facing teams on heaters all together, like combined. Like if we look back in a couple of months and the Rays are solidly in the wild card hunt, it'll be because maybe the team improved, but maybe a lot of it is just natural variance in baseball, right, where you're not facing just great team, great team, great team, great team. You're facing meh, bad, pretty good, meh, bad, pretty good, like kind of in that flux where, hey, you got a good team. Yeah, you win a couple games, lost a series against a good team. You beat up on a bad team. And suddenly now things are more in flux and right in the middle rather than just feeling like every single game is a relenting nightmare. So
yeah,
we'll see. They could also just keep losing at home for the next 2 weeks and that'll just be that. But I'm excited to see.
I feel good at Toronto and at Miami. I feel good about that. And again, I think we're gonna see better performances and less weird stuff. This team is still a mystery, and that's what makes this fun. So that's going to do it for this week's episode of Raise Your Voice. Thank you guys for listening. We've been live on youtube.com/@raiseyourvoice. So if you haven't already, make sure to like this video, subscribe to our channel, turn on those notifications so you can join us when we go live. We're also, of course, still available wherever you get your podcasts. Leaving a rating and review on Apple Podcasts, great way to spread what we do to more and more Rays fans. If you really want to say thank you, patreon.com/raiseyourvoice, where you can become a member for as little as $1 a month. As always, head on over to draysbay.com to check out all the great Rays coverage. Once again, thank you guys for listening, and we'll talk to you soon.